So tell me your journey. How did you end up a futurist?
Yeah, this is kind of a funny thing. I think future studies or becoming a futurist, you usually come from different backgrounds. You know, you bring your own baggage and you kind of discover that this thing called the future or the and where you can apply your own background. But I guess I was interested in different things, and I started when I was studying uh, production design, so film and theater, scenography, and art direction in Central St Martin's Art School in London. At the same time, I was working at the British Antarctic Survey, building equipment. That was my kind of like
Wow.
so I had this kind of like deep, hardcore, gnarly science and like really like tangible science. Like people were calling because at that time, the 90s, they had discovered the ozone hole, and Antarctica was they were monitoring it there, and people were worried, you know, rightly so, but they were worried like is there something coming right now, and
Yes.
should we be really worried? But yeah, so this kind of balance of and broad approach, so being creative and not. And then, well, I ended up in Finland. My grandmother happened to be Finnish, and my father moved to Finland, and so I kind of followed it over and after studies, and continued to study in Lapland in media culture. So somehow like there was a media lab there, and I was interested in the future of creativity and what platforms we need. And I ended up teaching for a while. I saw these future studies courses, and eventually I ended up within our department. We have a PhD program as well as a master's program, and I studied in the master's program, and quite quickly joined into projects. And so I've been here for about 10 years, and
That's
all
lovely.
kinds of topics.
Well, actually, to be told, I'm not a futurist by training. So I did my PhD in organization science. I was studying like organizational ecology, which is a kind of sociological stream in understanding populations and evolution of populations of organizations, like organizational forms. That was very interesting in understanding like what happens in the macro level. What are the sociological mechanisms impacting, let's say, a new industry emerging or some other industry, declining and something like this. So that's where I come from. Then I stepped to the other side, so started managing companies. We first established a consulting company. I was the managing partner of that, was something like for 5 years. And then I guess I got a little bit bored about consulting. So then I wanted to really put hands in the mud and start myself, managing companies. And then I think this is my third or fourth like growth company I'm in with the CEO type of position. And
Wow.
it's been really, really fun and great journey. And I've been at Futures platform now for 4 years. So I'm not a founder, but in those 4 years, I surely know what the futurists do and what's at the essence of strategic foresight and all that. So maybe by that, I could consider myself at least.
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. I'm wondering that as well on my behalf, because it just happened, and maybe I start already what I have studied, what I've been doing, just to give you and the listeners overview. So actually, I have studied in Finland, Austria, and Australia, and my major has been business and knowledge management. And that was like 25 years ago already. And since that, I have been working in different companies like Siemens Business Services, a big consulting company in the Europe, as well as Kesko Food, which is one of the leading grocery chains in Finland. And you know what? We live next to Russia, and we have that long border. And during my time in Kesko Food IT, I was building and actually starting a business in St. Petersburg. So that was time before the current situation. And for the last 12 years, I have been involved in consulting again as a management consultant. And I have been always interested about technology. For example, when I was a child, actually I lived in an island. You know the Finland
Yes.
is a land of thousand lakes, Nokia mobile phones, as well as Angry Birds. But I was living in middle of Finland. Lake Päijänne is the second largest lake, and I used to live there. And during my childhood, you know what? We actually got the internet for the first time here in the Nordics, and I was like, "Wow, what's that?" And that's like 30 plus years from now, and that's kind of the story. I have been just going deeper and deeper to the rabbit hole.
Yeah, so I got into coaching a few years back. I studied solution-focused coaching and positive psychology. And positive psychology is the scientific study that seeks to understand what makes individuals, teams, communities to thrive. But actually, I call myself Futures coach because solution-focused coaching, as such, is forward-looking coaching. And I felt that in this approach of coaching, even though it's forward-looking, it kind of lack the tools to really explore the futures, the alternative futures, and expanding the perspectives of what's possible. So there I found this bridge between future studies and coaching. So I wanted to build a bridge from my futurist background to something new and meaningful where I could work with individuals and teams and help them to explore their possible futures and broaden their perspectives with the tools and philosophies of future studies. So actually in my coaching, I apply the tools of positive psychology to explore your kind of inner world, your strengths, your values, and the tools of future studies.
That is fascinating because to me, it seems so obvious that those two have to go together.
Yeah, it does.
Because I mean, I imagine and I see from my perspective is that futurists should not just be journalists reporting on trends, but we should be able to look ahead and say, what are the positive outcomes that we aspire to develop? And then actually, as you put, create that bridge to the future so that you can accomplish your aspirations and the outcomes that you hope for.
Thank you for asking that, because it's really kind of strange path that I entered the field of future studies. When I graduated from Helsinki University as a Master of Philosophy, I came to work for VTT, Technology Research Center of Finland. And at that time, the field of future studies was becoming to be launched into our country. And immediately I was taken into a project where we had to benchmark how other countries like USA, France, Japan, UK, who were pioneering countries, how they organized future studies. But in Finland, we wanted to have our own flavor in future studies, how to organize it. So one of my first tasks was to study these pioneering countries and then suggest some organizing for Finland. So I have had this unique opportunity to follow time series, how the field came to Finland. But my personal background was in the history. I studied ancient history and culture in ancient Rome and Greeks, and actually I did my doctoral thesis on Stoic philosophy. But the topic was common both for history and future, because it was how humans have related to nature, and on the other hand, how humans have related to technology. And it's more topical subject today than as ever. So that's how I started my career. And then in 2007, I became professor in university. So that was another position, but as interesting as the first one with studying technology.